Welcome to Get Paid for Your Pad, the definitive show on Airbnb hosting, featuring the best advice on how to maximize profits from your Airbnb listing, as well as real-life experiences from Airbnb hosts all over the world. Welcome.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.
This episode is brought to you by Hostfully, a company that helps you make beautiful guidebooks for your listing. Make your own at hostfully.com/pad. And as a special for Get Paid for Your Pad listeners, you'll get a free guidebook consultation after you make your guidebook. Welcome everybody, another episode of Get Paid for Your Pad. My name is Jasper, I'm your host, and today I have Henry Bennett on the show. He's the co-founder and CEO of YourWelcome, which is a tablet that Airbnb hosts can use to provide information to their guests and sell extra services. Did I say that right, Henry?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. I think you summed it up pretty succinctly, actually.
Okay, great. Welcome to the show. Let's start with your background. You've been an Airbnb host, right? Or are you still?
Absolutely. I still am, absolutely. So basically, I started doing it after we'd previously exited a business we were running before. And I listed my house, which I've got with my wife and 3 kids, just on Airbnb, and we just decided to see how it goes, to take some holidays when people booked it, which went pretty well, actually. So the idea of YourWelcome really started from the pain points we experienced of renting what is a home we live in, actually, on Airbnb.
Okay, and what was that pain point exactly?
So the house is very old. It's like 260 years old. So the typical guests that we got were American families who had seen our street on period dramas. And basically they'd rent the house very excited. And actually the practicalities of living in a house at that age meant I got quite a few phone calls. There's a lot of Airbnb host experience. So for example, how you light an open fire, how you lock doors when the house is very wonky. So essentially what happened, although it was very profitable renting an Airbnb, essentially what it meant was that I got a lot of phone calls. So after doing it probably 2 or 3 times, I decided to, myself and my business partner basically hacked together a very, very simple application that just had a series of videos in it, which basically, so I started saying to my guests when they arrived, I said, look, before you phone me about anything, can you look on this really simple app on this Android device left out for you? It'll have a video explaining any of your problems. And if you phone me up without looking at them, I'll just tell you to look at the video. And the thing that happened that was quite interesting was, one, obviously it materially streamlined the amount of phone calls I got. But the interesting thing about it is that I left it on the side just by the kettle, actually. And when I got back, I realized that people just used my tablet just for searching. So it started an idea where we thought this is quite interesting in that obviously all my guests had turned up with iPads, laptops, phones, but because I'd simply left the tablet out, they were prepared to use it to look for things. And so the idea was conceived between myself and my business partner that actually if you left a bit of hardware out, guests would use it. And actually if you could marry what previous guests had kind of searched for and looked for, and then serve up appropriate services, you probably could have quite an interesting business. And that's actually what has happened in that all the hosts that now have installed our tablets, the usage stats are massive. It's like the average session time over the last 6 months has been 11 minutes. So the fact that there's a practical hardware that has information on it, and then also services that you can buy, and additionally information means that guests use it. And I think it's the hardware is the enabler on that.
So wait, you're saying when you first left out that tablet, people weren't just using it to watch the videos that you provided, but they were also using it for, to look up places in the neighborhood or stuff like that?
Just searching for how do I get, because my house is in London, so we're looking for how do I get cheap tickets to London Eye, how do I get, what's the best restaurant, all the stuff that typically you would imagine that guests would search for, because they didn't clear their history. I just thought it was very interesting that just because I'd simply left out a device, they use that rather than using their own device because it's by the kettle. And that's really where the idea started from, really. And it's it's very interesting to see the volume of usage, because clearly most guests that turn up have their own devices, but because there's a free one sitting out with a load of information on it, that's the one they choose to use.
Right. So you were thinking, instead of having people using the tablet to search on Google Maps or search in Google for the best restaurants, etc., we might as well just provide that information to them anyway, so that they don't have to waste their time searching.
Correct. Because one of the things that we kind of looked at quite early was that when you stay in a hotel type accommodation, there's a lot of information that is given to you and easily accessible. So if I can talk to the concierge, I can talk to the receptionist. There's always a book left out with more detail than obviously an Airbnb host would do or likely to do. But when you stay in short-term accommodation, whether it's vacation rental, Airbnb, or indeed service department, actually the onus is really on the guest. So often an Airbnb host will leave out 10 recommendations. This is a great restaurant, you should check it out. But then the guest themselves then has to often Google that restaurant to find out where is it, how do I get there, is it public transport, is it taxi, is the price right, is the food right, have they got availability? Whereas we considered that if we could streamline that process within our own ecosystem, we could then quite easily and seamlessly turn host recommendations into guest experiences, which would benefit the host, because obviously the host wants to feel like they're giving good tips, and also, from the guest point of view, that's a great experience. So now, for example, on our tablets, when someone leaves a recommendation on it, it's not only plotted on a map where it is, it's also got a direct API for a taxi service. So we can give a live taxi price for how much it would cost to get there. There's obviously a direct link to get to the website. They can also get directions sent to their phone. So basically, as I said, it's streamlining that process during recommendation experience.
So if I understand correctly, if one guest finds a restaurant, uses the tablet to find a restaurant, then the next guest can use that same can book that same restaurant. Is that how it works? Or?
So it's more. So no, the host leaves out their series of recommendations for the restaurants, which then they have easy access to be able to find them. But we also, as YourWelcome, have also left a whole lot of recommendations. So for example, if you're a host in London and like me, you live on the South Bank, I would leave recommendations all around the area. But what I wouldn't do is leave recommendations if they want to go to Mayfair. But what YourWelcome's done is that we've gone through and left recommendations for the whole city. So there's a whole load of recommendations, which you can turn off if you don't want ours, but it means that your guest is catered for whether they decide to stay local or if they want to go to other areas in city as well.
Right. So you can, as a host, you can completely customize the tablet for what you as a host think is best. So you can use some of the recommendations that you've installed on there already, and you can add some of your own recommendations.
The tablet looks entirely like your own tablet because you can record a welcome video, of which, having talked to Airbnb, I think there's something in this where if you can't greet your guest personally, which occasionally sometimes is the case, or you decide to do it that way, if someone can see it's your home, so you leave a video saying, "Hey, welcome to my house. I hope you enjoy it as much as we do." I think people will tend to treat it better because the person attached to that place. And then you can leave a whole series of instructional videos about how things work. So popular ones that people tend to leave are what happens if the boiler trips out, or here's how the appliances work, security, or every house has a nuance where, if you live in it, where you learn to live with problems in your house. That sometimes it's not easy to write out, for example, how does you reset the boiler, but actually you can leave a very simple 10-second video. So it is quite customized. So it's the person's house is what is displayed on the tablet. And then the recommendations, you can just have your own, or you can mix yours and ours, however you want to do it.
Right. Okay. And what else can you add to the tablet?
So you can also, which is kind of one of the biggest USPs, which is the other thing that we consider when we set this up, is that if you look at how a hotel business is run, they make up to 20% of revenue from anything other than selling space. So, selling food, selling experiences, spas, etc. Whereas if you're an Airbnb host, it's actually quite difficult to monetize the guest outside of purely selling your space. So what you can now do on the tablet is you can upload services that you can sell. So popular ones people do is obviously late checkouts. You can purchase through there. You can sell mid-stay cleans, left luggage, parking permits, pretty much anything you can service. Like even there's Some people have set up stuff like you can order like meals through it, and the guests will then cook it themselves and bring it over. And then also we've set up a whole series of partnerships with third-party food delivery companies, taxi companies, which you also earn a percentage of that revenue through. So what we're trying to do is kind of bring a fairly significant additional revenue stream to sort of the short-term accommodation economy.
Very cool. Just going back to those recommendations. What I usually do when I travel, when I'm in an unfamiliar place, I usually use an app like Foursquare or something to check out the different restaurants in the neighborhood. And what I really like is that it always has this Uber button where I can immediately order an Uber taxi through the app. Is that included in your tablet?
So from city to city, we have different taxi partners. Some have API access, so you don't even have to sign up. You can just literally press a button, put your credit card in, taxi turns up. And then we also have, if we don't have a taxi partner, we have an Uber web view of it. So obviously people, if they have their own Uber account, can do it via their phone as well. But we see a lot of people ordering directly the tablet. So because it's our own version of Android, we don't have other apps within our system. Everything's web view.
Okay, very cool. And is it available everywhere?
Yeah, so you can order it anywhere in the world. We currently have hosts using it, I think, in 18 different countries now. I don't know how many cities it is off the top of my head. So everywhere from Bali, countries in South America, we've got a lot in America, a lot in the UK, obviously a lot in the hotspots like Amsterdam. Obviously, we've got a lot, Barcelona. So yeah, pretty much everywhere actually, in terms of bigger cities.
Mm-hmm. All right, very cool. And do people? Because I'm trying to think as an Airbnb host, what my concern would be. Do people steal those tablets?
So no is the answer, but it isn't their liability anyway. So basically, if anyone, exactly the same as someone stole your television during a stay, what you do is you report that to Airbnb. And as soon as someone sends us that report, we just ship them another device. So it's entirely our liability because the product works on a subscription basis. So you don't own the tablet. You pay a monthly subscription, or you can buy a 6-month or 12-month subscription. So if anyone did steal it, then we would ship another one. But we've had 1,000+ devices in the market. We've not had a single one stolen to date yet. I think people will understand that they book something with their credit card, whatever platform they've come through. So if they steal something, it's pretty clear.
Right. I also like to believe that most of the people that are using Airbnb are generally, quite good people who wouldn't steal something in the first place.
Yeah. And also the other thing to sort of add as well is the tablet is essentially a dumb tablet in that it's linked directly to the address. So the tablet can only do two things. It can only connect to Wi-Fi and load YourWelcome app. So if someone took it out of the property and tried to use the app, so say, for example, they took it home with them and tried to order a takeaway, the takeaway would turn up to the address that it's fixed to. So there's no use for the tablet outside of the property that it's in.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. It's not really a concern then.
No. And also when you sign up, as I say, if anyone breaks one or steals it, we'd ship another device. So it isn't the liability of the host anyway.
Right. Okay. And what are some of the services that are most popular amongst your users?
Food delivery by an absolute mile. So from the services that we've set up, we see a huge volume of deliveries being ordered, which, to be honest, we were quite surprised about at the start. But looking at the times of when people order, I guess when people arrive in a city and it's quite late, that's that cool thing. We see a lot of taxis being ordered, gym passes, bizarrely. And then from the services that the host themselves set up, late checkouts by far and away is the biggest. And then I think second is less luggage, I believe.
That's interesting. And can you see what hosts on average charge for late checkouts?
So the average in the UK, I think, is £20, I believe. It obviously varies territory to territory. So, and obviously it depends on how long they can offer that late checkout. And then people tend to charge £5 for late checkout. So we kind of give some recommendations based on data we've got of what people pay for.
And does YourWelcome take a cut out of the extra money that Airbnb hosts make?
So we take 20% of revenue from services you set up and pay away 80% every month.
Okay. And how much does a tablet cost? You said it's a monthly subscription?
Yeah, so you can order monthly, although to be honest, the majority of people do the 6 months or a year. So it varies in what currency you pay in. So if you I don't know where most of your listeners would be located. So if you're in the UK, it's typically £99 for a 12-month subscription, or $49.99 for 6 months, and $59.99 for a 6-month subscription in the US, and $119.99 for a 12-month subscription. But obviously, at the end, we'll be offering a 20% promotional offer to your listeners.
Right, and the extra services that you can offer through the app, because I'm thinking, if it's about what was it, $9 or $8 a month, depending on what subscription you get. I'm trying to think, how likely is it that I will be making that money back by selling some extra service? Can you see how much the average tablet owner makes through those extra services?
So it varies hugely, and it varies hugely depending on what platform people tend to market on and what type of short-term accommodation it is. So, for example, if you're an Airbnb management company, which I presume some of your listeners run that more than one property, a lot of people ask for a late checkout. And the thing I always say to people is that You're Welcome to transactional portal. We don't own the guest. So if, for example, a host puts a tablet in and just as a guest arrives says, there's some information on that tablet, then, you're not going to see a huge amount of revenue. If your guests arrive and you say, look, basically, I've left you some great recommendations on the tablet, you can get discounted tickets to tourist attractions. I've left loads of good recommendations. And by the way, if you want to late checkout, all the information and the ability to purchase that is on the tablet, you see a very strong revenue stream. So it's about how you position it with your guests. So if you're interested in running your Airbnb business and adding an additional revenue stream, and you're going to set up your comms in order to monetize the guest in property, you'll see some pretty strong revenue. If you just leave the tablet out, then obviously, like anything, you're not going to see a huge amount of revenue. So it varies very, very different on how the host pay. And also, we've noticed quite a lot of trends on where tablets are located and what the revenue is. So, for example, if a lot of your guests are families, the monetization is pretty high. I guess because they're in more, they're buying things like tourist tickets. We've got a good partner for that. They're more likely to stay in and eat. So you can monetize that side of it. If you tend to, your market is, 18 to 21-year-olds that are coming to stay and party, obviously they spend very little time in the flat and are unlikely to order anything by the tablet. So a lot of it depends on who your audience is and also how you position it to your guests.
Host, I can't emphasize how important it is to share recommendations of things to do or eat near your listing beforehand. Your guests won't have to go through TripAdvisor, Foursquare or Yelp. They won't have to scratch their head and think about possible places right in the moment. I've been using Hostfully to create an online and printable guidebook to show my guests my favorite coffee places in Amsterdam. They use my recommendations and I'm getting fewer questions from my guests as a result. I've also included screenshots of my guidebook on my Airbnb listing as a way to differentiate my listing from others. So make your own guidebook at hostfully.com/pad. Awesome. So for the listeners out there who want to give Your Welcome a try, who want to start using those tablets, what's the sign-up process like? What do people do?
So you go onto our website. It's a very simple checkout process. Our website's www.yourwelcome.com. You go onto it and you obviously go to the buy section of our website. You then choose which subscription package that you require. The cheapest being buying a year in advance. But you can also choose a 6-month option and a 1-month option in the UK. I think it's only 6 months in a year available in Europe and US. And then what you then do is you go to checkout and you can enter in get paid for your pad exclusive code, which gets you 30% off, which is the code is GPFYP. And you add that in, you get your 30% discount. And then the next day we ship you a shiny new device, which you then set up via a web portal. You add in your details, your information about your property, your welcome video if you like, and then it's ready to go. It takes minutes to set up.
Awesome. And how long does the shipping take? If I sign up today, when do I get my tablet?
We ship the next day. So in the UK, you'll get it the day after. Obviously, if you've got a property in Bali or somewhere, it takes a little bit longer, but we ship it out first class straight away. So, it should be a matter of days. but obviously it depends where you're located. And it's free shipping as well, I might add.
Okay. And does the tablet support different languages?
So we're just introducing that now, as we've got a lot of tablets that are in Paris. So we're under pressure to get that feature there, but currently it only support. I mean, obviously you can input any language that you require, so you can have the whole tablet set up in Portuguese, French, whatever it is. But we're introducing a toggle between English and second language, so that'll be available in the next quarter.
Okay, very cool. And what are some of the things that you are working on for the future? Have you? I'm sure you've seen some feedback. You've seen some requests from your customers.
Yeah. So one of the big things that we're working on at the moment is, so we've introduced a guest check-in feature. So guests can enter all their contact details, which can populate your CRM, so you can remarket to them. But where we see some real value in this is in cities like Milan that have a city tax. So what you're able to do, particularly if you're not able to greet them in person, is the guest basically checks in name, address, email, their address. They can then take a photo of their ID, which is required in cities like Milan, and they can then pay the city tax directly to the tablet, which we then pay on to you guys to account back to the city. And actually that's proven to be a real USP within cities that have that, because it's a material problem of when you greet your guests, you then say, oh, I need some cash from you and I need your passport. People are understandably wary about handing over cash the second they arrive at someone's house. So that's a definite USP for us.
Oh, that's interesting. I was going to say because in Amsterdam, Airbnb collects those taxes through the website.
Yeah, so it varies depends on the deal they've done city to city. But in Milan currently, the onus is on the owner to take that city tax and then account backwards. So it depends on what the rules are in different cities.
Right.
And we're expecting to see more of that legislation coming in. And then the other kind of interesting thing that we're offering as well is that particularly where there's regulation coming in around the amount of days that you can rent, we're setting up an ability for guests to purchase their stay when they book through booking.com through the same e-commerce platform that the tablets are powered by, which means when the guests arrive, their credit card details, if they wish, are already stored to be able to purchase stuff without re-entering them, which we think will be interesting to increase the transactional value. And I'm trying to think what else interesting stuff are going on. We're also doing a lot of pre-shooting videos for appliances. So, for example, in the UK, people typically have either Sky TV or Virgin Media TV. So we're shooting videos for this is how the Sky TV operates, this is how Virgin. So people can just go, I want that video, that video, that video, that video to save time on the setup. So the big three things that are coming early this year.
Just to get it right, when you were talking about booking.com, so you're saying if somebody books your place through booking.com, then their credit card details will be already in the tablet. So if they were to purchase anything else, any extra services, then they won't need to re-enter those details.
Yeah. So for example, if you're running your own transactional website, there's lots of people that do it currently. So you go, come here and pay for the rest of your stay. If you use our platform, it means that when your guests arrive, they're already on the same system. So we know their name, who they are. It greets them personally, and then it also has their payment details attached. They want to purchase additional services. So that's something that's coming at the end of this quarter. And it's something that actually a number of our clients have requested. So that's where that's come from. It's a bit of a departure from the core product. Right.
Okay. How long have you been doing this?
So we launched on May the 1st in 2016. So whatever that is, 8 months, is it? I think 7 months. So yeah, relatively short, but we've got thousands of tablets out there. I think we've signed up 65 short-term let or vacation rental management companies. And we also have, I think about 10, what we would call service department or corporate apartment suppliers as well have signed up, and a couple of hotels.
Yeah, I was going to say, this could be an interesting thing for hotels to have as well.
Yeah, our core focus was, and I think will always remain, that bringing an additional revenue stream to the short-term letting, I think is where it's at, because, realistically, the more properties that come on, the price gets squeezed. Now, obviously, you can use lots of clever pricing tools to try and optimize your yield that way. But actually, if you can then add another $25, $30 revenue per stay by selling things that you currently comp or you don't have the ability to sell because you've got no transactional portal, we think that materially affects the profitability of this type of model for people who are renting their property on Airbnb and similar platforms.
Cool. We're getting to the end of the show. Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners about the YourWelcome tablet?
The only other thing that I was going to end with was the other thing that's quite interesting is you also get access to an analytics portal. So you can start understanding a bit more about who your average guest is. So you can tailor the in-property experience better. So how that works is that over a 3-month period, we basically aggregate the most popular search terms and purchases that the guests are doing. So you then can get an overall picture of what your average guest looks like to be able to then improve what you're doing in property. And then the other thing that's interesting about that is you can start to get a better understanding of why people book your property. So for example, my house, which is in the South Bank in London, some weeks I get like 20 inquiries, and we couldn't work out at all for the life of why some weeks, because obviously there's always stuff going on in London, particularly in the area that I live in. And it turns out this is to do with rugby, which I've got no rugby stadium anywhere near me. Twickenham is like 15 miles away. But actually it turns out that on big rugby matches, it's an ideal place to stay because it's right in the tourist centre, but it's got a train station that goes directly to the rugby stadium. So now our pricing calendar is now fixed towards the Twickenham fixture schedule, which we never would have known without having some analytics about what the guests do in property. So actually that's a quite interesting feature as well for Airbnb hosts.
And how did you figure that out? Did you see on the tablet that people were looking for rugby tickets?
Yeah, I noticed that on a month period, the most searchable thing by a mile was Twickenham. So then I realised, obviously, that's why people are staying at my property.
Interesting.
So and you could argue that I should have done more research and understood it, but because particularly on the South Bank where I live, there's something going on every weekend, festivals, kids festivals, everything going on. It's quite hard to determine why that would be the case. But yeah, it's something that quite a lot of the management companies we work with now are looking at, because when you suddenly have 25, 30, maybe 50 properties, that type of information materially affects your yield across those properties.
Right.
So yeah, so it's quite interesting. So you start getting some analytics, but also the other thing that's quite interesting as well is you get specifics of things that your guests are wanting it's just, say for example, you're an Airbnb host and you're, for example, in your 60s or you've got a family, but your average guest might be a lot younger. You might not be the best person to actually give what your guests want. But by looking at the data, you can then start going, okay, so if 40% of my guests are looking for, before the tube started running 24 hours in London, one of the biggest searches we saw in particularly where our office is located around Brick Lane, which we have a lot of properties, is what time does the tube stop running? So then the host will be able to go, okay, this is information that the guest wants. They can start leaving out more information of what actually the guest wants rather than what they think they want. So taking a data-driven approach to basically what you're leaving out for your guests, which is quite interesting. And the other thing that's really interesting as well is that you can really streamline what information you leave for your guests. So if you're leaving out 50 recommendations, we can tell you which one of those recommendations are actually being used. So if, for example, you've got 50 recommendations, you have hundreds of guests and none of them look at recommendations to do with coffee shops in your local area, you can take a view about whether you keep updating that because no one's looking at it.
Right. So then you would
streamline.
Then you would maybe look at some of the things that your guests look at most, and then maybe add a few more options around that.
Correct. Exactly. So for example, one of the things that surprised a lot of Airbnb hosts is that the guests do what a typical tourist will do, as well as living like a local in inverted commas. So, if if it's your first, second, third time in a major city, you're going to do the major tourist attractions. Very few Airbnb hosts, from what we see in our data, leave any information related to how do you get cheap tickets? You can buy them on a tablet, but how else would you get there? Ways of getting to places that people want to get to. And so now they're looking at going, okay, so 60% of my guests are actually going to Central and looking for a major tourist attraction. I should leave some information that's useful to making that a better experience.
Right.
Because all this is about, right, is giving your guests what they want and getting a good review and getting more occupancy. Everyone's after the same thing. So I think the tablet's using, it's basically giving you a data insight into what your guests really want during their stay. If you can deliver that, you're going to get better reviews. Simple as that.
Right. So to kind of summarize, why would Airbnb hosts get this tablet? It basically improves the guest experience by giving you a very convenient way to provide your guests with local recommendations. It's very easy to use, and it has more functionality than, for example, if you print out a guidebook or so, because you can order a taxi, you can order food through the application. And so it'll probably save your guests a lot of time. And then the second part is that as an Airbnb host, you can offer different services. Let's say you want to rent out a bike, you want to sell late checkout. You can offer the service through the app. And so when your guests order those, then you can make some extra money on the side.
Correct. So we always summarize it that you can save yourself time and therefore money by leaving video guides, again, less phone calls, less call outs. You can make money by upselling additional services to your guests whilst in property, and you can get better reviews by actually getting a data insight about what your guests really want and tailor your in-property experience accordingly. That's
right.
kind of the three unique selling points that we kind of, express to everyone that signs up.
All right. Very cool. Well, I'll just repeat how people can sign up if they're interested. The website is YourWelcome.com. So your without any other like weird symbols, just YOUR and then welcome, no dashes or anything like that, .com. And there you can find more information. You can check out the tablet. So you can see what it looks like, and then if you want to go ahead and try it out, you can enter the code. As always, I always use the same code, GPFYP, which of course is the abbreviation of Get Paid for Your Pad. So if you use the code, if you apply it, you will get 30% off, and that's not just the first month; that's recurring, right?
Forever. So for a lifetime.
For a lifetime. So that's quite a nice chunk off the price. So thanks very much, Henry, for that generous offer.
Pleasure.
And thanks for coming on the show. I definitely think this is a really interesting product and very creative as well. So I'm sure lots of people will be interested in it. And I wish you all the best with your company. Hopefully, be very successful, and hopefully we'll be able to chat again in the future.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. And for the listeners, of course, the show notes will be at getpaidforyourpad.com/podcast, where you can find all the other episodes as well. You can listen to the episodes as well on the website, so you don't have to go to iTunes or Stitcher. And also, I have a transcript. I get these episodes transcribed these days, so you can find the full transcription on the show notes page, as well as all the links that you need, and also the promotional offer of the 30% off will be there as well. So all the information is out there. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Get paid for your pad. 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 Get paid for your pad.